Hey, everybody, I'm the Ranting Monkey, and with me today is Ann Lieven. Say hi, Ann.
Hello, everyone.
First, I want to apologize to anybody who thought this was going to happen an hour ago. Normally, when I set these up, I make sure to talk about time zones, and I just completely forgot when I was talking with Ann and getting this all set up. She's Central Time Zone, and I'm Eastern, so a little bit of a mix up there, but we are live now. And for those of you who don't know Ann, you really need to watch more of my videos. I did a video highlighting Ann a
Yeah,
couple
how long
months
ago
ago.
was that? Yeah, I don't even remember.
Yeah, for those of you who have been watching, it was the video with the thumbnail that said "A New Hope" because Ann here is a college student who actually rejects social justice. How does that work out for you?
It definitely, I think you can, to some extent, reject some forms of social justice and still be accepted in college. But if you, I get equally as much for being a conservative as just rejecting social justice. For most part, it's mainly rejecting that I've come in contact with, I guess, because I'm a woman and I'm allowed to reject feminism to some extent. But if I reject anything like racial social justice, then it's the end of the world.
Yeah, I would imagine. um, your video, the one that caught my eye, was the one that has now apparently blown up. Uh, the one I took a social justice course, so you don't have to.
Yeah, yep.
Uh, that has over 500,000 views now, which is awesome. I am so happy for you. Um, but I also saw that you had a video where you were talking about the comments in that one. Have you gotten a lot of pushback on that?
Um, I like some people watched the video and they immediately thought that some some more of the respectful comments thought that at the end when I said there was a strong liberal bias, they thought that I meant that the social justice people were liberals, and I've definitely like made sure to talk about that in other videos. Like I did not mean that the gender studies class and the ethnic studies course were liberal. I just meant that in high school a lot of the classes there were like liberal, as in like not conservative, whatever. But like as for some people, like immediately were like, "Can I swear?"
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
They like some people thought that I was a feminist by the video, and so they're like, "Shut up, you stupid bitch! I hope you get like I don't think I've gotten like too many rape threats. Some of them, and then as for the social justice people, a lot of them are like, well, I guess you just don't know what feminism is. Feminism is about equality. I guess you just had a bad teacher because I've never heard anyone talk about that stuff in a feminist course. No way. So it's from both sides of the aisle. There's been some pushback.
That's so odd. I love the video. I really did because one, you're very funny and the stuff you were talking about. My children are in college right now, and it worries me some of the stuff that they're being taught. My daughter went to school to be an accountant. She's taken all the courses for that, and she still had to take a gender study course to get her degree. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with accounting. Why is that being pushed?
Exactly.
Thank
It's ridiculous. And I don't, it's just a waste of time and money because if you're not going to be open minded to it, then there's no issue that then it's just like because it's obviously just virtue signaling because I don't think that anyone because what they're trying to do is like take potentially male rapists and try to basically say, oh, rape is bad, guys. And you're not going to change if somebody's already going to be doing that, you're not going to change any minds.
Yeah, you're not. If you tell a rapist rape is bad, they're not going to. Oh, I will stop that then.
I've never heard that before in my life. I'm glad I took this course.
Thank you, Stephen, for the donation. Yeah, with the whole rape thing, I just have never understood the teach boys not to rape narrative because even rapists think rape is bad, or at least know that they shouldn't do it because they don't admit to it. It's not like they're running around going, "Yes, I rape people." Um, so yeah, I've never understood that.
Yeah, me neither. Like I'm God bless my dad because when I was growing up, even though I didn't initially um, agree with him on this stuff because I used to be very sympathetic to the feminist cause when I took
Mm.
these courses. But he was like, you need to protect yourself when you go to college. There are bad people in the world, and I'll never be able to take those bad people out of the world. They'll always be there. You need to protect yourself. You need to be cautious. And he's like, I'm sorry, but you're a woman in the world, so there's something very specific that you'll be targeted for. And so that's, I think, how women should be taught to protect themselves rather than relying on other people to protect them.
I agree. I always use the analogy of locking your house or locking your car. If somebody's car is stolen, it's a perfectly legitimate question to ask if they lock the car, because that is a form of protecting it. When people go, was she drinking, or was she in a bad, like, did she go to a frat house where she didn't know anybody? That's not necessarily blaming her, saying this is behavior you shouldn't do because it's very dangerous. It's like not locking
Exactly.
your car.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask what you're majoring in?
History, actually.
Wow. I love history. I really do. It bores a lot of people, but what made you go to history?
Well, originally I didn't choose a major because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And it was after I think the first year and first semester where I was thinking about, this is when I started getting into politics really, and I was really focusing on what everything was. And I realized that there was an importance, and I had always liked history. I just thought that I liked other things more. But then as I was realizing that a lot of people tend to politicize it, and I love politics and I love history, but I don't want history to be politicized because that's where you just choose whatever narrative you want. And I realized the importance of just protecting actual truth. And so I was like, hey, you know what? I want to be a professor of history. I will teach other people history and I will not politicize it. And that's what I'm going to do with my life.
Have you had how many history classes have you had so far in college?
See, I started out with taking the major, and I actually did more political science classes at first to get that out of the way. And I've only taken, I think, 3 so far, but I've been doing a lot of independent study to make up for that. So I'm not like completely taken aback for when I actually get to be able to do more classes, because I've just taken basic history basically.
With the history classes you have taken, have you noticed any social justice bias in there?
I don't know if it's exactly social justice, but like obviously when you're learning about American history and you get to the slavery portion, it's just a lot of, white America did this, white America did this. And it's like, yes, a lot of slavers were white Americans, a lot of them were Black Americans, a lot of them, but like they don't focus on the causes of things like this. They mainly focus on who did it and like who to blame, which I think is very, yeah, bad white boys. How dare you? But so it's like, well, obviously the people who were slavers were either bad people or they were just taught that people who had darker skin than them weren't human. So if we just need to address that for the future, and we can avoid that ever happening again. And I think that's another thing. But as for medieval times, I've gone on Twitter about this a few times because every time I see it, it always bothers me. It's when people call the middle period the Dark Ages, and that's it. Yeah, I cannot stand that. It's just so inaccurate, and it's meant to, I think it might be anti-Christian bias or something along those lines, because I think it's meant to erase the progress that happened during that era when you're calling it the Dark Ages, just because of the bubonic plague, which that's a very high school history way to focus on it, I think.
Yeah. What's your favorite period of history?
Ooh, I really love French Revolution history, but
Oh, wow.
yes, it's actually really fascinating. And I love to contrast it with the American Revolution because there are so many things that went wrong with the French Revolution, but that went perfectly right for the American Revolution. I just find it so fascinating. But I also, as for like fictional literature, I do like medieval fictional literature as well. But yeah, so I definitely have to say, as for like just studying it, I would say French Revolution.
I'm a very American guy, I guess. I love American history, especially the wars. The Civil War to me is just fascinating because there's no reason the South should have lost that. They had much better military strategy. It was just a matter of resources, and the entire world is different because of that war. And
Hmm.
I think we spent slavery is definitely a part of that war, but I think we have spent way too much time concentrating on that part of it and not really paying attention to what exactly changed in our country because of that. Up until that point, the idea of a state leaving wasn't really a big deal because they were independent states, and at that point, the federal government's like, "No, we're all together." So for me, that's really fascinating.
Yeah,
I do
and I think,
apologize.
yeah, what's up?
I didn't prepare any questions, so this is just on the fly.
No, totally fine. I don't even mind. Yeah, if we get to talk about like history and politics and what's wrong with colleges these days, I am completely set. So no problem. But yeah, I think that's another bias in history classes is that when you're talking about the Civil War, a lot of people immediately are like, oh, just slavery was bad, guys. And then they like, it's almost like it's skirted over, which I know a lot of people feel almost guilty for some reason, even though like obviously no one alive was involved in that war.
Right.
So I don't know why people feel guilty about it. But like people, I think it's the problem of, like how German schools will teach kids that the Germans were the ones who did the Holocaust and all those terrible things, as opposed to teaching them that the Nazis did it.
Mhm.
I think that we need to focus more on that in history classes, where we're focusing on the ideology that led to people being hurt by something evil like slavery or like Holocaust or anything like that. And I think that would be better for people who want to study it and they don't want to feel guilty, because obviously you shouldn't feel guilty about something you didn't do. And then we can focus more on aspects of it that are often ignored, like what changed in the Civil War, for instance.
What's your favorite part of college?
Ooh. uh,
We spend a lot of time talking about what's wrong with colleges, but there are definitely advantages still.
yeah, there are definitely, like, I love learning,
Mhm.
which is, so I think it's great that I have access to education and I can actually like work towards being able to get a degree in something. um it's just that, yeah, I would say, as cheesy as it sounds, I do love the learning portion of it. It's just that I don't like the indoctrination portion of it.
Foxy the Wary Fox in chat asked, and do you study history in other places like Africa or Asia?
I actually am taking an African history course this next semester, and I do love Asian history, but I haven't been focusing on it that much. I mainly been focusing. I've only been able to learn about Chinese history from like, I think it was around 900 AD.
Hmm.
So very specific time portions.
Chat, if you do have questions that aren't horrible, I love you guys, but you know what I'm talking about. Go ahead and ask them, and if I catch them, I will ask. Um, I'm interested in how your channel growth has hit you because you've really jumped in the last week or so, maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yep. I think it was the past 2 weeks because I put up a video that I didn't expect to get quite a few views at all. I thought it'd get like, like 3K, something like that. It was just me. I found some feminist Father's Day cringe and I was like, I just want to share this with somebody. And somebody asked for it on Twitter too. So I was like, I'll do it. And then it was a really short video. And then for some reason it got, oh, I think it's on par with the gender studies course one now. For
Oh,
some
wow.
reason, I'm like, it was just me reading tweets, really. I mean, but I did throw in some jokes in there, but I was also really tired, and you can tell in the video that I'm super tired.
No,
I'm not
I
even
thought
wearing pants in the video.
I really enjoyed that video. I did. But yeah, I was just looking through the growth there, and any channel that I that I highlight, I follow, and I may not comment or stuff, but I still watch and pay attention. And I went over there and I saw that. I was like, holy crap, Anne is blowing up. And I really am happy for you because you do really good stuff.
Thank you.
But yeah, you've exploded. That's awesome. Um, again, like I said, I'm all over the place. I do apologize for that.
No problem. No problem.
Um, what led you to start doing YouTube?
Basically what it was is that this is the semester that I was taking all those political science courses, and there was a very, very strong bias, and I could immediately tell. And I still wanted to take the course and I think it's helped the videos too, because I'll differentiate between things that a lot of people think are the same thing. Like I learned about the difference between like civil liberties and civil rights and basic employment law and things like this that really helped with my perspective on things. Um, but and I couldn't speak out in class on these things. I had to just sit silently and just say what the professor wanted me to say, even if I didn't agree with it. And I was getting really, really frustrated with it. And and then basically I was like, I just need some kind of outlet here. And so I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna put videos on YouTube. They'll get like 20 views. It'll be fine. And that didn't happen. But it was honestly just an outlet for the classes, and it still is an outlet to some extent. But I definitely am focusing on making the outlet better quality outlet.
Peter in
So
chat asked if I would ask how old you are.
Yes, the ages old question. I am 19 years old.
I get asked that all the time because I'm a grandpa, and yeah, I'm 42, and people are always freaking out about that. What kind of YouTube content? I assume you watched YouTube content before you started. What kind
yeah,
were
definitely.
Were you watching political content, or did you watch like gamers, or what kind of content did you like before you started?
Oh, I did watch quite a bit of political content, but I mainly focused. This was another reason behind me making the videos, is that I found like a few videos, but they were all like I did watch Ben Shapiro, but he's not like a YouTube creator. And then I was watching like Milo Yiannopoulos, and I really did not like how he said things. And then I was watching Chris Ray Gunn, which I love Chris Ray Gunn's videos. They're really funny, but obviously he's a liberal, so there wasn't that there wasn't that reasonable conservative voice on YouTube either. And so I was like, well, maybe if like a handful of people see the video and they see that not all conservatives are foaming at the mouth Milo Yiannopoulos is, then maybe that'll change those few people's lives a little bit. And so I did watch YouTube, but I didn't find like reasonable conservatives. I did watch the political YouTube, but I didn't see the conservative YouTube.
Yeah, I've noticed within the genre of what they call skeptics or anti-SJWs, most of the people identify as liberal, and I'm not. I'm, by most standards, I'm conservative. I'm liberal when it comes to social stuff. As long as you're not pushing it on me, I really don't care what you do with your life. But when it comes to especially fiscal stuff, I am very conservative, and I do find that it's I don't want to say it's a lonely place, but if you do say you're a conservative, you are definitely in the minority.
Exactly.
I'm surprised to hear somebody like Chris Ray Gun say that he's liberal, because much of the stuff he speaks out against is what I would consider liberal things these days. Adrian says Milo's not conservative. I kind of agree with that, but he does at least preach kind of a conservative message in a way, until he started dressing like a weirdo.
Yeah. I would say like that's something that, like, I think if he says that he is conservative and that he does preach some conservative values, even though they're obviously like supposed to be very raunchy and they're supposed to be inflammatory, and they make conservatives bristle, I think that technically he's a conservative. I don't like how he gatekeeps a lot, which I cannot stand also.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Oh yeah, I've got an older sister, and then I've got three younger sisters, and then I have a younger brother.
Holy Lord. Are your parents Catholic?
No, that's that's actually they get asked that all the time. My dad really likes kids, and he grew up with 8 siblings. So he
Oh,
was
wow.
used to a big family, and then my mom was just kind of like, oh, okay, we're gonna have a big family, I guess.
Yeah, that was my plan too, but Lady Monkey decided 3 was enough.
Aw.
I love kids. I enjoy the way they think. They're, in my opinion, a lot more honest, and I enjoy that about them. Um, is your whole family conservative leaning?
That's actually a funny story. My dad is super conservative. Like he will any conservative talking point he probably agrees with. He's an independent thinker though, so it's not just like he was raised conservative and so he is conservative that way.
Mhm.
My mom isn't very much into politics, but she does agree with my dad on stuff. And then as the younger siblings, it's too early to tell with that. But I think my brother watches a lot of feminist cringe videos on YouTube, so I'm
Oh, okay.
guessing he's going to turn out that way too. But and then my older sister did not like politics at all. Um, and then I think she also was kind of sympathetic to the more left leaning cause. And then she went to college. She went way far right. I think she might be on some talking points she's further right than I am. So
Hmm.
that's really funny. Because she just the thing that got her was that she took this ethnic studies course, and the teacher said that being colorblind was wrong because you're not being aware of their background. And she went, you know what? Fuck you. And she went completely right.
um, I lost my train of thought because of something said in chat. Oh my God, I am so sorry. Oh, Trump. What do you think of him?
Ooh, he recently he approved a tariff on Canadian lumber, and that right there, that was enough for me to say, you know what? No matter who you're running against next term, there's no way I'm voting you back in. So that because I am really very much against protectionism. I've studied the Great Depression, and I know one thing that helped lead to it was the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. And that's just such a bad idea. I can't, with good conscience, vote that back into office. But
It's that's funny because the reason that I voted for George Bush in his first term, and the reason I actually stopped voting for mainstream politicians was he increased the tariffs on foreign steel. And at the time, I was working at a machine shop and we worked with steel all the time. And foreign steel was already more expensive. The reason people used it was better quality. And because of the tariff, we had to switch to American steel, and it was just disgusting.
mhm.
And I didn't like the protectionist garbage that is what turned me off of mainstream politicians was that I never expected George Bush to do that, but he did
Well,
it
I
because he had
guess
sucked up. Go
I
ahead. I'm
guess
sorry.
I'm kind of, I guess I'm going to be on your path soon. Then,
Yeah,
if it was protectionism that did it in the first place.
it my first time I could vote, I voted for Bill Clinton, and I still would vote for Clinton again. And people always get confused when I say that because I am conservative, but Bill Clinton led very much by consensus. He was so worried about his legacy, things that he doesn't get enough credit for, and he did it all to make sure that he was remembered well. Um, and that there were a lot of advantages that came out of the Clinton policies. I don't like him necessarily as a politician or as a person, but as a leader, he did very well with bridging the sides. He
Yeah.
signed very liberal or very conservative bills into law, unlike Obama, who just I'm not signing anything.
Yeah, I think Newt Gingrich was the leader of the House then, and
Yeah.
Speaker of the House, my bad. And then he also helped influence that conservative fiscal policy. So yeah, I can see that.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. That was the in '94, the Republican sweep of the House and the Senate. But instead of just locking down and doing what Obama did, especially the last 2 years, Clinton said, okay, let's work together. Let's get something done. And I do admire him for that. And then I voted for George Bush. And as I said, the whole tariff thing, that's what put me off. And I don't know many people who understand why that would be so irritating to me. So it's nice to talk to somebody else who, like, no, I don't have very strong opinions of Trump one way or the other yet. So I'm still very much in a wait and see kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't really done much yet other than piss people off.
Honestly, it's so hard to figure out what Trump's been doing because honestly, it's all about like, oh, what is it now? Oh, he said a naughty word in public. Oh, did you know this tape from 40 years ago? He said something that I don't agree with. I'm like, well, okay, what about something that he's actually done today? That's how I want to judge him. I don't want to judge him by something 40 years ago or whatever is coming out nowadays.
We'll come back to Trump in a minute. Sweeper Steven asked, Anne, I'm a fan of your videos. Do your mom and dad, brothers and sisters know you do YouTube videos, and how do they feel about it?
Actually, the only one that knows is my sister, because my older sister, because we shared an apartment at this time, and I would always ask her like when she was leaving for class, so then I could film. And
okay.
And so eventually I was like, Hannah, the reason why I've been asking you to leave the apartment is because I've been filming stuff for YouTube. And she's like, oh, okay.
Has she watched any of your stuff?
Actually, I think she watches every video or close to it, so she knows what I've been doing. She keeps me in check too.
Yeah, with Trump, we do the nightly live stream, and it's become a joke. You know, what are they going to talk about today? And there's actually so many headlines right now that are focused on things that don't even exist. Like there was one that actually said, what would happen if there was an investigation of Trump something something? And it's literally a title about nothing. It's what if, and that's not news. That's conjecture at best.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying with there hasn't been a lot of actual politics with him. We had the travel ban actually upheld by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and I don't think there's been much.
It's really not, but he does inspire a lot of hate.
Normally, yeah, that's the thing. Is like I don't know how to treat him, because normally when a politician gets this much hate, that means that, oh, I'll probably like them if the mainstream whatever doesn't like them. But in Trump's case, I really have to triple, quadruple check on this stuff.
Well, with Trump, I mean, you have the hate coming from both sides. Really, the Republicans are a little more sneaky about it, but he was never a favorite of theirs anyway. So there's hate coming from all around with Trump.
Yeah,
How much do you pay attention to congressional politics?
Congressional politics is I haven't recently been paying attention to that, but that's something where I definitely need to make sure I'm doing that every day, because I'd really like to keep it up with it and kind of get my perspective on this stuff. But
they're having a problem right now. They're having a problem right now. The Senate has just announced they're not going to be voting on the replacement for Obamacare. And we've talked about this again on our show. For 8 years, the Republicans kept telling us they had a replacement and repeal plan for Obamacare. And then they get into office and they can't seem to figure it out. And it's really funny to me that
I do have an opinion on that healthcare bill, but I don't know where they are on the voting process of it.
What's your opinion of the bill?
It's Obamacare light, and it doesn't remove a lot of the restrictions that Obamacare put into place. So it's not going to make anything cheaper, and it has the words healthcare bill on it. I guess I'll have to pass it, and I cannot stand that. I'm like, you have the entire government right now, Trump. You can put in a fiscally conservative healthcare policy, but you just don't want to, I guess.
Well, that's part of what I wanted to ask you about is because as somebody who's been following this for a long time, every time the Republicans have gotten back in power, ever since Newt Gingrich first fell out, every time they get into power, it's like they're afraid to use it. And I just honestly don't understand that. We do have a question here. What is your opinion of Canadian Bill C-16 and Motion M-103?
That is the pronoun bill, correct?
C-16 is yes.
Yeah, I'm very much against that. Anything that restricts free speech is I'm not for. And then I think it's also going to make it harder for. I think maybe Blair White pointed this out, but it's going to make it harder for transgender people to get jobs and everything because they're just a liability now. So I don't think it helps anybody, and I'm very much against it.
Well put. Yes, absolutely. And yeah, M-103 is the Islamophobia bill. That was the one
I'm
where.
against that also.
What do you think of all the Islamophobia nonsense? I know that's a
Yeah.
leading question because I called it nonsense, but that's what it is. But is that something that you see a lot of stuff on campus about?
Um, Honestly, I don't think I have been seeing a lot of stuff on campus about it. I have a very social justice leaning group of friends, but they stopped talking politics around me once they found out that I was very conservative. So I feel like that would be my way to find out how what the campus opinion on that stuff is. But honestly, I feel I definitely do more internet. I definitely do more politics on the internet. So I haven't been really feeling around to see what the more social justicey people feel about this kind of stuff.
Um, what is your opinion of how, in general, how Islam has been almost protected by SJWs, even though it's actually a rather regressive ideology?
Oh, I think your audio cut out during the first part. Can you repeat the
Oh, I'm
first part of
sorry.
the
I said,
question?
what is your opinion of Islam in general and how SJWs seem to protect it?
It's like the most ironic thing in the universe. These people who are very much like very pro pretty pro gay rights, very pro woman for very pro woman, at least in theory. And they're like, but this religion, because it's I think the reason why it's protected class is because a lot of people who are Muslim are not white. So I feel like they can't. I feel like they feel as though they can't criticize it because if they criticize it, then they're racist. But it's funny that they're like as soon as something comes up with race, it's like, oh, sorry, women and gays, sorry, you guys are not as important as people who are not white. So we can't criticize it. I feel like that's the way of thinking there.
I agree with you partially, but I also think part of it is the Christianity angle. There's such a disdain for Christianity that I feel that a lot of the Islamophobia nonsense is in direct relation to liking something that hates Christianity and Judaism. Um, and for me, we had the president of the United States go up on stage after a terrorist attack and start talking about the Crusades because he wanted to bash Christianity as much as we do Islam.
Yeah, that I don't understand that. It's very backwards. As soon as it's just the motivation for someone doing something. And even let's take the most left-leaning approach to this. Let's assume that they're completely taking Islam out of context and they're fighting in the cause of something that is against the Quran. Well, then the best thing to do about that is to find out why they're taking it out of context and attack that problem. But it's not allowed, I guess. I don't know.
Are you
Completely
religious? Do you mind
ridiculous.
if I ask?
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm actually not a denominational Christian. I
Okay.
used to not be very religious at all. I was quite agnostic for most of my life, even though my family was Lutheran. I just didn't see the point of it. But then this past February, I started going to this new church, and I've gotten very religious since then.
I am agnostic, bordering on atheist. But I think in America there's a huge push to bash Christians, and I really do think that's part of the whole Islam protection. It just seems so weird to me that it's like people can't believe that you can dislike two things at one time.
Yeah, and I think it's very. I've seen I think the wrong way to approach this is I've seen a few atheist people, I think they're atheist, say like they'll look at what's happening in the name of Islam now and they're going to say like, oh, yep, religion's bad. Whereas like, that there are some things that you can take from a religion, even if you're not religious yourself, even if you don't know how you think about like having a God, you can still like take those aspects and apply them into your own life for like some of them. There are some things that I have to say I find a little bit ridiculous, but even within Christianity there are some things, but yeah, and I think saying like, oh, in response to the terrorist attacks, oh, all religion is bad is a little bit like, obviously, like there aren't a bunch of Shintos and Buddhists and Jews and Christians committing atrocities in the name of the religion on a mass scale nowadays. So obviously there's something different about Islam, whether it's being taken out of context or it's a violent religion.
When it comes to your videos, how do you decide what subject you're going to do it on? Do you just get passionate about something so you go make a video, or is it something you think out in advance?
There are some things where I will plan out in advance, but a lot of times it's stuff I'm passionate about. There's this one issue that I would like to make a video about soon, but I need to really prepare how I'm going to do this, which is school choice.
Okay.
But yeah, I honestly like I recorded a video a while ago and I'm going to be releasing it tomorrow, and it's about Laura Loomer and my response to that. So like sometimes I'll just get like mad about how someone's acting. I'm like, I'm just gonna record myself getting mad about this.
Can we get a sneak peek? What do you think of Laura and her actions there?
I think that it is a completely dangerous idea to say, oh, because I disagree with this person, I'm going to say that they don't have free speech. And even like in this case, she doesn't disagree with the play because the play is about don't kill Caesar or don't kill Trump in this case, which I think is so funny that she just saw the play and she was like, oh, I got to react to this, I guess. Don't know anything about it. Gotta interrupt it. And she's just acting like a complete child. I'm 19 years old. She's how old? And she's acting like a child.
As a fan of Shakespeare, I was actually one of those weird kids who loved when we got to read Shakespeare in high school. I was just flabbergasted by the number of people who, oh, this is a horrible thing. They're talking about killing Trump. And it's like, you don't even fucking know what that play is about. It's not glorifying killing Caesar. I mean, it's the most famous part of that play, definitely. But it's not glorifying that. That was a bad thing. What do you think about society in general often reacting that way? Just their first emotional response. Do you think that's a problem? Do you think it happens too often? Do you think it happens at all?
Oh, I think it happens very often. I think that a lot of people are stuck being on the defensive, so they automatically assume that anything that happens, they have to be defensive about it immediately. Like if you look at I actually noticed this quite recently I recorded a review of the Netflix show Dear White People. And from the title, I assumed it would be very anti-white. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, no, this isn't anti-white at all, actually. And then a lot of people in the comments were like, I didn't watch this show. I don't need to. It's just anti-white propaganda. I'm like, or you can watch the show, or you can even like sit through part of the review. You only need to sit through like 2 minutes of the review before I say I don't think the show was anti-white, or you need to read the description to find out that it's not anti-white. And a lot of people were just like, from the title, they just reacted instead of like sitting down and thinking about it, or even just giving it a chance. And so I think that's a problem on both sides of the aisle. Right now, I think I think that people who are pro free speech are somehow right now acting like people who are anti free speech.
I would agree with that. And on that specific show, I kind of give people a pass for the first preview they did for the show, because it did make it look very anti-white. But if you
Yep,
watch
I
the
agree.
second preview of it, they, it's obvious that they're mocking pretty much everybody. I
Mhm.
still haven't watched the show. I am going to because the second trailer made me want to. When I first heard about it, like, I don't even care. But when I saw that second one, I'm like, okay, this is the kind of satire I want to watch because it's just funny. Real quick, we had another question from the audience. How do you get treated at school after doing the videos that you make?
I
Do, do,
often I've actually not been recognized on campus, thank God, by anyone who is not in like agreement with me on some things. I think I've only been recognized twice in public, and those were by people who were they either watched the Ben Shapiro video or something like I forgot the other person. Oh man, I would feel badly. Yeah, but
you,
I definitely yeah.
you mentioned Shapiro earlier. Do you like what he does? I know he's not a typical YouTuber. He records his talks, but do you agree with him?
Oh yeah, I like a lot of the stuff he does. He's one of those rare people where he's fun to watch as a conservative speaker, but he's not like Yiannopoulos where he's just saying stuff to be funny or he's like actually getting onto good points and good arguments. So I definitely am very for what he does. Um,
He's
sometimes the
he's
Daily
very
Wire.
quick-witted.
Yes, I love that.
I love his question and answer time because I have never seen him get frazzled in that. He is so cool under fire, and it doesn't matter what kind of question he gets. He's I don't always agree with Shapiro because I'm not quite as conservative as he is, but I do enjoy his question and answer period. I really do.
Yeah, even if I disagree with one of some of his answers, like I do like on the trans issue, I have no problem with calling a trans person by whatever pronouns they want because I don't really care. If it's like if they look like a woman, I'll call them she. I don't really care at all. And he's very much like, oh, if you're biologically male, I need to call you by male pronouns. So I disagree with him on that, but it's still very fun to see the back and forth there because yeah, I've never seen him frazzled.
Now with the transgender movement, I was just watching one of your videos. It was the one where you were responding to comments from the other one. Excuse me. And you mentioned in there that you've talked to a lot more. Okay, let me back up and start that over.
No problem.
You mentioned that you know more trans people than you thought because you thought it was a very small minority of people, but like there's three that you know, or it was kind of unclear to me whether you know them personally or just through the YouTube comments. Um, do you think there's actually a lot of transgenders, or do you subscribe to the theory of trans trenders?
I think that there are definitely going to be a few people who would call themselves trans, but they just dress in quote unquote boy clothing, which I think is funny because they say that clothing has no gender and then they dress like quote like a boy.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so yeah, I think there are definitely a portion of those people who they just see it as some kind of hip thing and they don't actually have gender dysphoria. But like but I'm pretty sure I think that there was a study that showed that the brains of like transgender females and transgender males were very similar to those of the gender that they identified as rather than their biological gender. I'm not really sure about that, but like if there's scientific evidence for it, I'll follow that evidence because I like but with like the oh I'm agender, oh I'm demigirl, oh I'm whatever, there's no evidence for that. So I can't really safely say, oh yep, I'm totally whatever. I'll go with that.
Well, I think you hit on it really well there with the boy clothing. They'll tell you I'm non-binary, and then but I'm a non-binary lesbian. Like that doesn't work. A lesbian is a girl who likes girls.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. Like there was this actress called oh I forgot her name, but she was like, oh I am a gender fluid bisexual. I was like, bisexual, two genders. You can't be something other than male or female.
Yes, exactly. Um, what do you think of the alternative pronouns, the Z, the Zer?
I'm never going to use those unless some giant scientific breakthrough comes out that says that oh yeah people can be people can act not male, not female, whatever. But like I'm not it's just so backward. It makes it hard to talk to the people who are Z and Zer, who are like say that they're Z and Zer, because like I'm afraid that I'm gonna say like he or she, and then they're gonna get really mad at me, and then I'm gonna have to defend myself, and I don't want to be in that position where I'm constantly like in a verbal fight, because I'm not actually I'm a pretty passive person. I don't think you would get that from the videos, but I don't like alter I don't like altercations all that much. So it makes it hard to talk to people when you're so being trying to be careful with your words.
Yeah, I don't mind being confrontational. I don't go out of my way to be, but if it comes up, it comes up. I am really stuck when it comes to the whole transgender thing, on this notion that a girl who dresses like a boy is gender fluid. They're actually in their description telling you there's only two genders. They get that. They just don't get that.
Yeah. And like I remember like I was a very tomboyish kid. I remember I used to just dress in t-shirts and jeans, and like but like nowadays I would be considered transgender. I don't or like a trans I'm like I don't get that. I was just a tomboy. I dressed kind of boyish as a kid.
Yeah, when I grew up, that's what we had tomboys. Not nobody was transgender because they liked climbing trees. They just, that's a tomboy. It's a girl who likes doing boy things.
Yeah.
Um, oh, sorry, I was reading a comment. They're talking about the Dear White People thing, and they're talking about a BuzzFeed video that came out around the same time called Dear White People. That was, I believe that was the New Year's post they did. I don't know if you saw that video.
Oh, I did. Oh, trust
Yeah.
me. uh,
When people are saying that, I think from what I saw, most of the objection originally to Dear White People was based on that first trailer they did, which was absolute garbage. It made it look like an SJW television show.
yeah.
Dear White People, you suck is what it looked like.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Excuse me.
No problem.
Do you go to school close to your family?
Yeah, I actually live in the school semester. I actually live only an hour away from my parents, so I get to talk with whenever I come home. I'm always like I always have a new thing to complain to my dad about. I'm like, today in school they said it's just random things.
Do you guys have like big family gatherings?
Yeah, my family actually lives pretty close together. So usually when I come home on the weekends, there's at least my cousins are at least over, or someone like that. I've actually my this is another reason why I was definitely against the being colorblind is wrong thing.
Mm.
Because my aunt is from Mexico. Like she became a citizen a few years ago, and so like I'm talking with my cousins all the time, and we like to make jokes about each other. So they like to make jokes about the fact that oh, they like to make white people jokes, which is funny because they're half white, and then we like to make
Right.
we like to make Mexican jokes, and we like do like this fun back and forth. And so I'm when I got to college and I encountered that, I was like, what? This doesn't seem right at all.
Yeah. When I grew up, being colorblind was what we were taught to be. And it was as I was leaving middle school, going into high school, that the idea of never, or race never being allowed to be forgotten became an idea. Suddenly, everything had to be about race. You had to mention race in everything, or you were a bigot. Where until then, it was always, Martin Luther King's dream of content of character rather than color of skin. Did you? I'm assuming if that hit you in college, in high school, you didn't notice that very often.
Yeah, this was very interesting. I was actually grew up in rural Wisconsin, and there were I guess I had some exposure to people who weren't white because of my cousins, and there was this one group of family that adopted a few girls from China, and so I they were actually pretty close friends too. And I still talk to one of the girls quite a bit. And then there was another Mexican family, I guess. But like we weren't, and we thankfully had this very strong foreign exchange student program, so we constantly were in contact with other people of different races, and we weren't taught to be like, oh, you can't say this around them because that will offend them, and treating them like an out group. It definitely wasn't the thing there. You would think like in rural Wisconsin that would be like, oh, that's where all the racists live and everything, but we were taught to be just act like how you would act around anyone else, around anyone that wasn't the same skin color as you.
Almost as though skin color didn't matter.
Almost. It's so weird.
We had another question from the audience. What do you think of the whole Lacey Green thing?
I think that she is genuine because I don't think that she would go to the lengths of dating someone if she hated them and thought they were a Nazi. And I'm definitely very much pro dialogue because I cannot stand it when you can't have a dialogue with people who are of differing political views than you, because that's not how I think things should be done at all. And so I would like to encourage this, and I think it's telling that she sees a lot more support from the anti-SJW side rather than the SJW side.
Mm-hmm.
As well. So I think she might be taking the red pill. We'll find out.
Would you ever date a passionate liberal?
I have in the past. It wasn't like a huge form of contention, but the thing is, like, I do have someone in my family that is pretty liberal, and she is married to a guy who's pretty conservative. And I was in the car with them one time when politics came up, and I don't know about that. If they were like really, really far left, I don't know if I could deal with that all the time because they seem to be very much. That was not a fun car ride.
Well, I'm reminded of James Carville and his wife. What was her name? Madeline. Oh God, chat, help me out there. But these are really liberal and conservative. She's really conservative. He was Bill Clinton's campaign chief, and they got along when they weren't talking politics. I think right now, too many people are so focused on politics that they forget about the people behind the um, ideology there.
Mhm.
And I do think a big part of that is no, it wasn't Albright, Peter. Sorry, that's just, if you know who Madeleine Albright is, that's just funny. I think that SJWs have made it so much about identity that it is hard to separate politics from people. Mary Marlin, thank you. But it used to be okay for people to, date or hang out with people who disagreed with them politically, because Matlin, thank you, Mary Matlin, that was her name, yes. But you used to be able to hang out with people that had different political views because there were other things you could talk about. Not believing in Z and Zer wouldn't be a reason to stop talking to somebody.
Yeah, and I think that dating is a little bit different than having friends with people. Like I can see dating somebody who is as long as they're open-minded about politics and they're not going to be just thinking that I'm an evil person for being conservative, then that's different than being like super, super whatever. But yeah, I've had friends that were different political views than me since I can remember. So the fact that nowadays it's not okay to hang out with people because they have different political views is just ridiculous. Because I remember we used to talk about like movies and morals and what's happening in school and all this kind of stuff. But nowadays it's just politics, I guess.
Yeah, I remember right after the election, a friend of mine on Facebook put, if you voted for Donald Trump, you can go ahead and just unfriend me now. I'm like, well, I didn't in the election. I swear to God, I voted for my wife. Like I didn't vote for him, but I'm glad he won. Should I unfriend you? And they got really upset with me for making that comment. I'm like, well, you just told people that you don't want to talk to them anymore. You don't even want to be their friend anymore because of how they might have voted. Like that's so fucking stupid.
Yeah,
Um,
I was unfriended by I think two different family members after the election because they knew that I didn't want Hillary to win. And I was like, you two are grown adults. You're 60 years old and you unfriended me on Facebook because I didn't want Hillary to win? What the hell? Oh,
it's actually funny. Most of my family is very liberal. They were definitely not in favor of Trump. And while I made no, everybody knew how I was voting. Um, People think it's a joke, but I really do. I don't vote for major party candidates because I don't believe in them. I've yet to find one that I was like, yes, I like what they're saying on enough issues that I wanted to vote for them. So I've started voting. It started with I started writing in my best friend's name, and since then I've spread it around. Like I voted for my wife. But I made no bones about the fact that if I had to have one of them as president, I would rather have Donald Trump. And my liberal family, they were actually okay with me with that, which I found odd because a lot of them were pretty rude to other people who said they were going to vote for Trump. Um, I thought there was a question that I missed here. Where'd that go? Sorry, I should have paused it right there. Oh, there it is. What are some political YouTube channels you still watch? I know we went over some you watched before, but do you watch any now?
yeah, I actually watch a lot of Chris Ray Gun, a lot of Some Black Guy, a lot of I can go through my whole subscription list actually. I forget who I even watch all the time. I have started with Lacey Green's new content. I've started to watch that as well. Oh man, how do I get to this? Roman Millennial also.
Oh yeah.
I watched her stuff, and I really like the fact that she's also a conservative that isn't screaming at the microphone and just like there's a difference between like getting like passionate about something on the microphone and just talking about it that way versus just saying all liberals are idiots and I never will talk to any of them and whatever is going on nowadays. Um, a lot of PragerU videos, which they're not a lot of them I disagree with, but a lot of them are good.
I with them, they're actually an interesting case because I, I usually only catch them when it's a commercial at the beginning of a video, and yeah, I'm with you. There's a lot of stuff there I don't disagree or that I disagree with, but there's a lot of it there's like, that's pretty interesting, especially if you're into history because they talk about history a lot.
That's really good too. But like, I don't like a lot of stuff that they do on religion and morals because I don't think that you need religion to be a moralistic person. And I don't think that all morals come from religion either. So those ones I usually don't watch because I'm like, I know I'll strongly disagree with this and I might sit down and watch them sometime, but I've watched the one on, oh, do you need, oh, there was one of them that I watched and I was like, this is wrong. I disagree with this completely. I
Well,
also
as
watch,
somebody who
yeah, go ahead.
as somebody who makes their YouTube living off of disagreeing with people, I tend to seek out those videos, the ones where I do disagree.
Yeah, it's like I
But
usually don't like debating religion only because I know that's even worse than talking politics. I'm fine with political disagreement, but religious disagreement, I'm always like this is just gonna get heated, so I don't. Usually, I avoid that.
I'm with you on that. I've never done a religious video, and in real life, even though in real life I have no problem arguing with people, I try not to argue religion because it is such a personal thing, and I'm of the opinion I don't want to change anybody's mind. If they believe in a God, that's great, good for them. It doesn't affect me if they do, and it's really not something worth arguing over unless it's like Muslims trying to bring Sharia law.
Yeah, and that's even more of a
Then
political thing. It's just like, oh,
yeah,
I want to keep your religion out of politics. That's all I want.
indeed. I was only going to try to keep this for about an hour. So, chat, if you guys have any questions that you want me to ask Anne, now would be the time to ask because we're getting close to that hour mark. Um, Adam did ask if you watched The Ranting Monkey.
I do watch The Ranting Monkey.
What's your favorite part of YouTube so far?
Honestly, I really like hearing all the people who have been. I used to think that I was like, when I first started the channel, I was like, wow, no one left wants to do any kind of political disagreement without name calling and being really, really rude to each other and hating the other side. And then from YouTube, I've actually found that there are a lot of people, especially a lot of liberals and a lot of conservatives, who are just like, I just want to have a nice conversation with someone. And I watch, like, a lot of people have come up to me and they through like Twitter DMs or anything like that, and they're like, I disagree with you a lot of the time and I love your videos. And that honestly is one of the best things in the world, because it's like, oh, finally I realize now that there are a lot more people that can have a civil discussion and not hate the other person that they're having the discussion with. And that's honestly the best part, is when people are like, oh, I watch your videos to get a different viewpoint on things. It's great. And I love that a lot of conservatives, I do like it when a lot of conservatives watch the videos, but like there's something special about someone who disagrees with you and watches the videos.
I am totally with you on it. I love all of the people who comment and say really nice things, but the ones that really catch my eye are the ones who disagree and they have an honest disagreement. Not like the vegans who just hate me because I made fun of them. But people who haven't. One person commented recently that they didn't like how often I've been doing what they call drama videos. And I was like, okay, what kind of videos do you like? And I still do my videos based on what I want to do at the time. But I am interested to hear when people have a genuine disagreement with something that I said. And I enjoy that kind of back and forth.
Exactly.
Bandage Dude asks, what do you think of the terrorist situation in the UK?
That I think that Prager, I think this is another instance where PragerU's videos I did agree with, where they were talking about the best way to combat radical Islam, and they were talking about a propaganda war. Because I think the last few terrorists that have been hitting the UK have been UK born and raised, but they were like the second generation immigrants or something like that. Yeah. So I think that a lot of people have been hearing this anti-West propaganda thing, and they're starting to think like, oh, ISIS actually has like they're actually like a good cause. They just have very violent methods, and then eventually the violent methods sound okay because you're like, oh, the US and the UK are just slaughtering people in the Middle East, and they just want oil and all that stuff. And so I think like PragerU's prescription for that, the propaganda war, I think will be really helpful.
And we'll take one final question here. Are you anti-SJW / anti-regressive?
I'm not anti-social justice warrior. I am anti-social justice. I think that social justice is the ideology that is damaging, but the people who subscribe to that ideology, they're just people who have different political views than I do.
That's a very good way to put it. And on that, we're going to end this. And thank you so much for joining me. I know I asked you this kind of last minute and out of the blue, but I really appreciate you coming to talk to me today.
Yeah, no, I really loved having this conversation. It was really productive. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll have to have you on sometime when I'm more awake. Guys, I'm sorry. I was up doing a video till 6 in the morning. I didn't plan what I was going to ask Anne here because I am a horrible host. But thank you so much for making it work anyway. Chat, thank you guys for coming, and a pleasure. I really enjoy what you do. Guys, if you're not subscribed to her, link is in the description. Go check her out and subscribe. And on that, we're going to say goodbye. Bye, guys.
Bye.